The rain was pounding hard against the office windows in Charleston when Victoria's phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered, having no idea that this one call would change everything again. "Victoria." The voice on the other end trembled. "It's me, Dylan." Her heart stopped. 8 years. 8 years since he had walked out the door, leaving behind a 4-year-old boy who rocked his body repeatedly, unable to understand why Daddy wasn't coming back anymore. "I know I don't have the right to call, but..." He coughed, a hoarse cough that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. "I'm sick, Vic, really sick, and I have no one else." Victoria gripped the phone tightly, looking out the window at the yard where Thomas was playing with Caleb. Her son was laughing, a laugh that had taken years to achieve. Caleb was spinning him in the air, and for the first time in a long time, Thomas was looking directly into the eyes of someone who loved him. How could she explain to the world what she was about to do? How could she justify the decision that would make everyone around her question her sanity? But on that call, she knew. She knew what needed to be done. Not for him, not for herself, but for that boy out there, who deserved a chance to know the man who should have loved him from the start. This is the story of how a mother found strength where everyone else saw weakness, of how forgiveness can be the most radical act of love, and of how, sometimes, doing the unthinkable is exactly what sets the soul free. Charleston, South Carolina, August 2015. The pediatrician's office smelled of disinfectant and lost hope. Sitting in that worn leather chair, with Thomas in her lap, Victoria tried to decipher the words Dr. Martinez had just pronounced. Autism spectrum disorder, level 3 support. It's what we used to call severe autism. Thomas had just turned 4. For years of a life Victoria thought was just beginning, but which was actually being rewritten at that very moment. This means that... Her voice broke. Dylan squeezed her hand, but she felt it was more for him to lean on than to support her. It means Thomas will need substantial support for the rest of his life, the doctor continued, her voice gentle but firm. He has severe verbal communication difficulties, intense repetitive behaviors, and extreme sensory sensitivity, but with the right therapies. "How much?" Dylan interrupted, his voice harsher than Victoria expected. "How much is this going to cost?" Dr. Martinez adjusted her glasses. "Depending on the therapies, and Thomas will need several. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, intensive ABA. We are talking about something between $4,000 to $6,000 monthly. That's not counting." Victoria didn't hear the rest. $4,000 to $6,000 a month. Their small party supply store in Mount Pleasant barely paid the bills. They had invested everything they had into that business 2 years ago, dreaming of a prosperous future. Thomas began to rock in her lap, emitting a high-pitched sound that Victoria recognized as a sign of sensory overload. Automatically, she began to apply the deep pressure on his arms that seemed to calm him. "There are assistance programs," the doctor continued, "and the state of South Carolina offers some services through the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs, but the waiting lists are long and..." "We'll figure it out," Victoria said, surprising herself with the firmness in her own voice. "Whatever it takes, we will figure it out." She looked at Dylan, expecting to see the same determination, but what she saw chilled her to the bone. Fear. Pure, absolute fear. They left that office in silence. Charleston was at the peak of summer, the air humid and heavy like a wet blanket. Tourists filled the historic streets of King Street, taking pictures of the antebellum mansions and the blooming gardens. They lived in a different world from Victoria's now. In the car, Thomas began to cry. Not a normal child's cry, but that desperate, heartbreaking sob that broke Victoria every time. He scratched his own arms, trying to pull off the shirt that suddenly seemed to be burning his skin. "It's okay, my love," she murmured, trying to reach him in the back seat while Dylan drove. "We'll be home soon." "He needs to stop that," Dylan said through clenched teeth. "People are looking." They were stopped at a light on Meeting Street. It was true. A woman in the car next to them was watching with that mixture of pity and discomfort that Victoria would learn to recognize so well. "He can't stop, Dylan. It's part of what the doctor explained. He's overloaded." "Is everything always an excuse now?" Dylan sped up as soon as the light turned green, his jaw tight. Victoria didn't answer. They arrived home, and she took Thomas straight to his room. She closed the curtains, turned off all the lights, and put the fan on the lowest setting, exactly how he liked it. He curled up in the blue blanket that was his biggest security, and finally began to calm down. She stayed there, lying next to her son, watching his perfect little face. He had her green eyes and his father's wavy brown hair. He was beautiful. He was perfect. And the world had just told them he was broken. "But you're not broken, my love," Victoria whispered, kissing his forehead. "You are exactly who you are meant to be. And I will move mountains to give you everything you need. I promise." When she left the room, she found Dylan in the kitchen, a beer already half finished in his hand. It was 3 in the afternoon. "We need to talk," he said. Victoria sat at the table, that same table where they had planned their future, where they signed the store documents, where they celebrated every small business victory. "We can't afford this, Vic. Then we'll find a way." "There's no way." He slammed the bottle on the table, making it jump. "You heard the doctor. It's thousands of dollars. Every month. Forever. He is our son. I know he is our son." Dylan ran his hands through his hair, a gesture Victoria knew so well. "But you need to be realistic. The store is barely turning a profit. We have loans to pay. And now this. This has a name. Thomas. Our son Thomas." He looked at her, and for a moment, Victoria saw the man she had married 7 years ago. The man who had proposed to her at the Battery, with the sunset painting the sky orange over Fort Sumter. The man who cried when Thomas was born, saying he never imagined he could love so much. But that man was disappearing before her eyes. "I didn't sign up for this," he said quietly. "No one does, Dylan. This is life. This is being a father." "Maybe." He hesitated, and Victoria knew what was coming next would change everything. "Maybe we should consider other options." "What other options?" "There are institutions, specialized places where he could receive better care then." "Are you suggesting we institutionalize our son?" Victoria's voice came out louder than she intended. "He's 4 years old, Dylan. 4. It's not institutionalization, it's specialized care. We can visit him, but it wouldn't be our 24-hour responsibility." Victoria stood up so fast the chair almost tipped over. "Get out." "Vic," I said, "get out. Leave this house now before I say something I can't take back." He stared at her for a long moment. Then he grabbed his car keys and walked out, slamming the door. Victoria didn't know it then, but that would be the first of many doors Dylan would slam in their faces. That night, she lay next to Thomas again. He was sleeping peacefully now, his little hand holding hers. And there, in the darkness of that room in their small house in Mount Pleasant, she made a promise. "I will protect you," Victoria whispered. "No matter what happens, no matter who gives up on us, I will never, ever give up on you." Outside, the sound of cicadas filled the warm South Carolina night. And somewhere in that night, Victoria's marriage began to die. The next 3 months were a freefall. Dylan came back that night, apologized, and promised they would be in this together. But promises are easy to make and difficult to keep when the weight of reality presses down. Their store, Celebrations and Dreams, was located at a strategic point on Coleman Boulevard. They had invested their savings and a considerable loan to open that space. In the early years, it seemed to be working. Birthday parties, weddings, corporate events. Charleston was a city of celebrations, and they were at the center of it. But now, in November 2015, as the leaves fell from the centuries-old magnolias, their dream was also falling apart. Victoria had started taking Thomas to therapies. She managed to get a spot at the Marcus Autism Center through an emergency waiting list. Dr. Martinez had pulled some favors, but it meant 4 mornings a week in intensive sessions. "You need to go back to working full-time," Dylan said one morning, while Victoria was packing Thomas's backpack with his comfort items. "Melissa can't handle the store alone." Melissa was their only employee, a sweet 50-year-old woman who loved decorating as much as they did. "I'll go back after his therapy." After therapy is noon, Victoria. Half the day is gone. "So what do you suggest?" She turned to him, Thomas already starting to get agitated because he sensed the tension. that I cancel the therapies he desperately needs. I suggest you find someone to take him. With what money, Dylan? With what money? He didn't answer. He never answered when the question was about money. That afternoon, after a particularly difficult session where Thomas had 3 sensory meltdowns, Victoria arrived at the store to find a note from Melissa on the door. I'm so sorry, but I have to resign. I haven't been paid for the last 2 months, and my husband is pressing me. She entered the empty store. Deflated balloons decorated one corner, reminders of a birthday party they had hosted last week. The cash register was empty, the shelves half-stocked. Victoria sat on the floor, Thomas in her lap, and for the first time since the diagnosis, she let herself cry. Truly cry. Thomas, sensing her distress, started applying pressure to his mother's arm. He was comforting her in his own way. I'm sorry, my love, she whispered. Mommy is tired. Dylan arrived an hour later. He found them still on the floor. Melissa quit, Victoria announced. I know. She called me. We owe her 2 months' salary. I know that too. And she looked at him, expecting something. A plan, a solution, a word of encouragement. And I think we need to close the store. The words dropped like a sentence. Close the store. Their dream, their future, everything they had worked for. No, Victoria said. We are not closing. Vic, be realistic. No, her voice echoed through the empty space. Thomas started to get agitated, sensitive to her emotion. Victoria took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down. We are not closing. We will find a way. What way? We are in the red. I have 3 suppliers threatening to sue. The rent is overdue, and you spend half the day with the therapies. With our son, Dylan. I spend half the day taking care of our son. He looked away, and in that moment, Victoria saw the truth. He no longer saw Thomas as their son. He saw him as a burden, a problem, a miscalculation in his life plan. I'll get a second job, she decided on the spot. At night, after Thomas is asleep, I can do freelance design work, online event organizing. And I stay with him. The way he said it, as if spending time with his own son was a punishment. Yes, Dylan, you stay with your son. A few hours at night. I think you can survive. In the following days, that's exactly what Victoria did. After putting Thomas to bed, a process that took at least an hour of specific routine, she worked until 2 or 3 in the morning. Invitation design, party planning, online consulting. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. And Dylan began to disappear. Literally. First it was meetings that lasted late. Then networking events on weekends. He came back smelling of expensive perfume and cheap lies. I was with the Johnson Group investors, he would say, trying to secure capital to save the store. But there was never any capital. There was never any investor. There was only a man running away from the reality he didn't want to face. On a cold December night, as Charleston prepared for Christmas, Victoria was at the store taking inventory. She needed to know exactly what they had, what they owed, what they could sell. That's when she found it. An envelope hidden in the desk drawer they shared. Inside, bank statements. From an account she didn't know about. In Dylan's name. Victoria's hand trembled as she saw the numbers. $58,000. $58,000 in a secret account. While she worked herself to exhaustion. While they owed everyone money. While Thomas needed therapies they could barely afford. There were regular deposits over 2 years. Money he had skimmed from the store's profits. Money that was theirs, that she had helped earn. And there were withdrawals. Large withdrawals. At expensive restaurants downtown Charleston. At hotels. At jewelers. Victoria felt her stomach churn. When he arrived home that night, it was almost 11. Thomas was asleep. She was sitting at the kitchen table, the envelope in front of her. Hi, he said, too casual. Still up? Victoria slid the envelope across the table. He turned pale. Vic, I can explain. $58,000. Her voice was surprisingly calm. While I was begging the pharmacy for payment extensions for Thomas's medication, while I skipped meals to save money, while I sold my jewelry to pay for therapies. I was going to use that money to save the store. Don't lie to me. Now she was shouting. The statements show everything, Dylan. The Capitol Grill, the Vendu Hotel, Gucci, Tiffany's. You weren't saving the store. You were funding a mistress. Silence. The kind of silence that confirms everything. Who is she? Vic. Who is she? Tiffany. From the gym. Tiffany. The blonde, smiling personal trainer Victoria herself had suggested when Dylan said he wanted to start working out again. What cruel irony. How long? 6 months. 6 months. Since 2 months after Thomas's diagnosis, he had fled into the arms of another woman while their world was collapsing. I need you to leave, Victoria said, her voice dangerously low now. Vic, we can talk about this. Get out. Her scream echoed through the house. From the bedroom, she heard Thomas begin to cry, frightened by the noise. Get out before I do something we will both regret. He went to the bedroom, grabbed a few things. Victoria went to calm Thomas, who was in absolute panic, rocking violently and banging his head against the pillow. It's okay, my love, she murmured, applying the deep pressure that helped. Mommy is here. Everything is okay. When she finally managed to calm him, Dylan was already gone. That night, lying next to Thomas, Victoria stared at the bedroom ceiling. Their future had just completely crumbled. No husband, no money, no business, nothing but a son who needed her more than ever. And that was exactly what she had. It was all that mattered. We're going to be fine, Victoria whispered in the darkness. I promise, Thomas. We're going to be fine. But as Christmas lights twinkled through the neighbors' windows, while Charleston celebrated the happiest time of the year, she wondered how in the hell she was going to keep that promise. January 2016 started with an eviction notice. You have 30 days to vacate the commercial space. It said in cold, official lettering. For months of overdue rent, no further negotiation was possible. Victoria sat on the floor of celebrations and dreams, which now looked more like nightmares and endings, surrounded by deflated balloons and shattered dreams. Thomas was playing next to her, lining up toy cars in a perfect row, oblivious to the financial disaster around them. Her phone rang. Dylan, don't answer, she told herself. But she answered anyway. There was still a part of her waiting for what? For him to say it was all a mistake? That he would come back? That he would fight with them? Vic, we need to talk about the store. About the store. Not about Thomas. Not about them. About the store. There's no store anymore, Dylan. We've been evicted. I know. That's why I'm calling. He paused. I want to buy your share. It took Victoria a moment to process. What? You're half of the store. Of the company. I want to buy it. I have an investor interested in reopening the business, but only if we have full ownership. You have to be kidding me. She stood up, startling Thomas, who began to rock. Victoria took a deep breath, forcing herself to be calm. You embezzled money, drove us into bankruptcy, cheated on me, abandoned your son, and now you want to buy my share? I'm not talking about it being free, Victoria. I'm offering $15,000. $15,000 for a business they built together, in which they invested over $100,000. A measly $15,000. You should be offering me half of what the company is worth. The company is worthless. It's bankrupt. I'm being generous. Generous. The word made her laugh. A bitter laugh that didn't sound like it came from her. And if I refuse, then I'll let it fail completely, declare bankruptcy, and neither of us will get anything. Except the debts, which, let me remind you, are in both our names. It was blackmail, pure and simple. But he was right. The debts were in both their names. If he declared bankruptcy, she would be equally liable. I need time to think. You have until Friday. The investor needs an answer. He hung up, without asking about Thomas, without asking how they were, as if they hadn't been a family for 7 years. That night, after putting Thomas to sleep, Victoria sat with all the business papers spread out on the kitchen table. Contracts, invoices, bank statements, trying to find a way out. But there was no way out. Mathematically, she was trapped. She called the only person she could still trust, Sarah. her best friend since high school. He's blackmailing you. Sarah said immediately. You need a lawyer. With what money, Sarah? I can barely afford this month's electricity bill. Then don't sign anything. Let it fail. Start over. What about the debts? They will haunt me for the rest of my life. I'll never get credit again. How will I help Thomas? How will I pay for his therapies? Sarah was silent. They both knew she had no answer. I'll sign it, Victoria decided, the words coming out before she could truly think them through. I'll take the $15,000 and get rid of this mess. Vic, it's the only way, Sarah. I need to start over, but I can't start with an anchor of debt pulling me down. On Friday, Victoria met Dylan at a lawyer's office on Broad Street. The lawyer was his, of course. She didn't even have the money to hire her own legal representative. He walked in wearing a new suit, Tiffany by his side, all smiles and manicured nails. She was wearing a Tiffany's necklace, probably bought with the money he embezzled from their company. You brought her here? Victoria couldn't contain the disbelief in her voice. Tiffany is my partner now. In the business, Dylan added, as if that made a difference. Partner, in business and in bed, built on the ashes of what he destroyed. Let's just get this over with, Victoria said to the lawyer, ignoring both of them. The papers were placed in front of her. Sale of corporate shares. Total transfer of ownership. Mutual debt release. You are relinquishing any future right to the company's profits or assets, the lawyer explained mechanically, in exchange for a one-time payment of $15,000 and the release from the outstanding debts. I understand. There's also a non-disclosure clause. Non-disclosure about what? Victoria looked at Dylan. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Just, we don't want the details of the agreement becoming public. It would be bad for business. You mean it would be bad for people to know you're a cheater and a thief? Victoria, the lawyer began. It's fine. I'll sign. She picked up the pen. Not because I agree with this, but because my son needs a roof over his head and food on the table. And unlike you, Dylan, I put my son first. Victoria signed every page with determination. When she finished, she felt something strange. It wasn't defeat. It was release. She was cutting the last tie binding her to that man. The check was handed over. $15,000, a fraction of what they built. But she looked at that piece of paper and saw possibility. She saw a fresh start. There's one more thing, Dylan said as she was leaving. Victoria turned around. The divorce papers. My lawyer will send them next week. How convenient. You already have everything prepared. Vic, we both know it's over. There's no point in dragging it out. What about Thomas? The question slipped out before she could stop herself. Will you at least try to see your son? He looked at Tiffany, who suddenly became very interested in her perfectly manicured nails. Thomas needs things I can't give him. You'll be a better mother to him without me around. It's better this way. Better. Victoria's voice was dangerously low. Better for whom, Dylan? For you? For your conscience? For all of us. I'm freeing you to move on. No, she said, holding the door. You are abandoning your son because he doesn't fit into your perfect life. Because he has autism and you can't deal with it. But don't wrap your cowardice in pretty words. Call it by its name. You are a coward who is abandoning a 4-year-old boy because he needs you too much. Are you going to stop me from seeing him? He asked. And for a second, Victoria thought she saw something like remorse. No, she said honestly. I will never stop you from seeing Thomas. The door will always be open. But you and I both know it won't happen. You've already decided he doesn't belong in your new life. Victoria walked out of that office with $15,000 and no illusions. Dylan was no longer part of their lives. And perhaps, she thought as she drove back home through Charleston's historic streets, perhaps that was a blessing in disguise. Sometimes, losing everything is the first step to building something true. Victoria's $15,000 wouldn't last long. She knew that, but for the first time in months, she had breathing room, a chance to think, to plan. The night after signing the papers, after putting Thomas to sleep, she sat at the kitchen table with a blank notebook. Outside, Charleston breathed its history. Centuries-old houses, cobblestone streets, the salty breeze from the harbor. But inside that small house in Mount Pleasant, a new story was about to begin. Victoria wrote at the top of the page, "What does Thomas need?" The list grew quickly. ABA therapy, 5 times a week. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, special sensory equipment, a specific diet that helped with the intestinal inflammation that worsened his symptoms, tag-free clothes, specific fabrics, a safe, structured environment. Then she wrote, "What can I do?" Event organization, design, customer service, small business management. And now, forced by circumstances, she knew a lot about autism, about therapies, about resources, about how to navigate a system that wasn't always friendly to families like hers. That's when the idea came. It wasn't a dramatic moment of enlightenment. It was more like puzzle pieces, finally clicking into place. Victoria had spent the last few months going from therapist to therapist, clinic to clinic. She met dozens of other mothers, always mothers, fighting the same battles. Exhausted women in waiting rooms, trying to calm children in crisis, sharing tips about which therapist was better, what insurance covered what, where to find resources. And most of them were alone, abandoned by husbands who couldn't cope, shunned by families who didn't understand, isolated by a society that didn't know what to do with different children. Victoria wrote in the notebook, "Therapy and Support Center for Families with Autism." It wouldn't just be a place for therapies. It would be a space where mothers and fathers, but she knew it would be mostly mothers, could find not only treatment for their children, but community for themselves, support, understanding. But there was a huge problem. She didn't have enough money. The $15,000 would barely pay 3 months' rent for a suitable commercial space, let alone equipment, hiring therapists, or licenses. Victoria closed the notebook, frustration tightening her chest. It was a beautiful idea, but impossible. Or maybe not. The next day, she left Thomas with Sarah for a few hours. Her friend had insisted on helping whenever she could, and went to the Charleston Public Library on Calhoun Street. The historic building smelled of old books and new possibilities. She spent hours researching government grants for autism services, support programs for women-led small businesses, charitable foundations focused on special needs. South Carolina had several programs she was unaware of. She filled out forms, wrote proposals, put together a basic business plan on one of the library computers. "You're going to need more than that," a voice said behind her. Victoria turned around. It was a woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled back in an elegant bun, reading glasses hanging from a chain. "Excuse me," Victoria said. "I saw you researching about opening an autism therapy center. I'm Evelyn Porter. I consult for nonprofit organizations." The woman pulled up a chair. "May I?" "Of course." Evelyn looked at Victoria's notes. "Do you have experience in the field?" "My son has severe autism, 4 years old, and in the last few months, I've learned more about it than in my whole life." "And the father?" "He abandoned us when he found out about the diagnosis." Evelyn nodded, without surprise or judgment. It happens more than it should. 80% of marriages, where there is a child with severe special needs, end in divorce. And in 90% of those cases, it's the father who leaves. The statistics hurt, but Victoria was no longer surprised by them. "Your business plan needs work," Evelyn continued, but her voice was gentle. "But the idea is solid, and Charleston desperately needs something like this. The waiting list at the Marcus Autism Center is 18 months. Many families can't wait that long." "I can't afford a consultant," Victoria said honestly. "I'm not charging." Evelyn smiled. "My grandson has Down syndrome. I know what it's like to fight for a child the world wasn't prepared to receive. Let me help you." That's how Victoria gained her first ally. In the following weeks, while continuing to take Thomas to therapies and caring for him at home, Victoria worked on the business plan every night. Evelyn guided her, corrected her, advised her. They met on Saturdays at the library. Taking advantage of the few hours Sarah could stay with Thomas. "You need a story," Evelyn said on one of those Saturdays. People donate to stories, not to statistics. Tell your story. Thomas's story. The story of all the mothers you met in the waiting rooms. Victoria hesitated, exposing her pain. Her struggle seemed too vulnerable. I know it hurts, Evelyn said softly, but your vulnerability will be your strength. It will show people that this is not just a business. It's a mission. So Victoria wrote. She wrote about the day of the diagnosis, about the husband who fled, about the nights crying in the bathroom so Thomas wouldn't hear, about the loneliness of being the only person fighting for her son, about the other mothers she met, each with her own story of abandonment and perseverance. In March 2016, Victoria submitted her first grant proposal to the South Carolina Autism Society, asking for $25,000 for initial equipment. The answer arrived 6 weeks later. Approved. She was in the kitchen when she opened the envelope. Thomas was playing with his cars in the living room. Victoria read the letter once, twice, 3 times, unable to believe it. "We did it," she whispered. Then louder, "Thomas, we did it." Thomas didn't look at her. He rarely made eye contact, but he continued lining up his cars, and Victoria could swear he was smiling. That night, she called Sarah. 25,000. Sarah shouted on the other end of the line. "Vic, that's incredible." "It's a start," Victoria said, still processing. "I still need a lot more, but it's a start." "You'll get it. I know you will." But there was one problem Victoria hadn't solved yet. Where? She needed a space. A place big enough for therapies, with adequate sensory areas, easily accessible to families. And spaces like that in Charleston weren't cheap. It was Evelyn who brought the solution. "I know someone," she said at their next meeting. "Margaret Chun. She has a commercial building on Rivers Avenue. It's been empty for 6 months. She might be willing to make a deal." "What kind of deal?" "Reduced rent for the first 2 years, in exchange for you offering free services to low-income children." Margaret is very involved in social causes. She lost her daughter to leukemia 5 years ago. Since then, she's tried to do whatever good she can. Victoria met with Margaret Chun a week later. The building was perfect. 3 large rooms that could be converted into therapy areas. An open space that would be ideal for a sensory area. Good natural lighting, ample parking. "Evelyn told me about you," Margaret said, her words carrying a slight accent. She had immigrated from Taiwan 20 years ago. "About your son, about your vision. I want to create a place where families don't feel alone," Victoria said honestly, "where children get the therapies they need and mothers find the support they deserve." Margaret was silent for a long moment, looking out the window at the busy Rivers Avenue. "When my Julie got sick," she began softly, "my husband left me, said he couldn't cope. I faced those 3 years alone. Chemotherapy, hospitals, sleepless nights. And when she died," Margaret's voice broke, "I knew it would have made a difference to have someone by my side, someone who understood." She turned to Victoria. $600 a month for the first 2 years. After that, we renegotiate, and I want you to reserve 20% of the spots for families who cannot pay. It was less than half the market price. It was a miracle. "Why?" Victoria asked, tears in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because when Julie was sick, someone helped me. A doctor who treated her for free. A nurse who stayed after hours to sit with me. Small acts of kindness that kept me alive." Margaret smiled, her own eyes tearful. "Now it's my turn to be that person for another mother." Victoria signed the lease that same day. In the following weeks, she worked harder than she ever had before. With the grant money, she bought sensory equipment, swings, deep pressure cushions, tactile toys, special lighting. She painted the walls in soft colors that wouldn't overload sensitive children. She installed sound dampening carpets. Evelyn helped her navigate the necessary licenses. Sarah painted murals on the walls, gentle scenes of South Carolina nature, palm trees and pelicans that added beauty without being visually overwhelming. "What are you going to call it?" Sarah asked one night, as they painted together. Victoria looked around the space she was creating. A space born of pain, but built with hope. Lighthouse Therapy Center, she said. Lighthouse? Sarah asked. Because when you're lost at sea, when the waves are pulling you down and you don't know where to go, a lighthouse guides you home. Victoria smiled through her tears. These mothers are lost at sea. I want to be their lighthouse. In May 2016, 6 months after Thomas's diagnosis, 4 months after Dylan left her, 3 months after losing her business, Victoria opened the doors of the Lighthouse Therapy Center. She had hired 3 therapists, 2 ABA specialists, and 1 speech pathologist, all women who knew autism firsthand, either from having children on the spectrum or from years of dedicated experience. On the first day, 5 families showed up. 5 exhausted mothers with children the world didn't know how to love. Victoria greeted them at the door, Thomas by her side, wearing his special noise-canceling headphones. "Welcome to the lighthouse," she said, and it meant much more than just a welcome to the building. It meant, you are not alone. It meant, I understand. It meant, we will navigate this storm together. One of the mothers, a woman named Patricia with a 6-year-old son named Marcus, began to cry. "I'm sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "It's just that this is the first place where I don't feel judged, where I feel like someone truly understands." "I understand," Victoria said, and it was the purest truth she had ever spoken. "We all understand here." That night, after closing the center and taking Thomas home, Victoria sat on the living room floor. Thomas was sleeping peacefully in her lap. For the first time in months, she felt something she had forgotten. Hope. There was a lot of work ahead. The center was barely breaking even. She still worked late every night on freelance jobs to supplement her income. There were still nights where she cried from exhaustion, but she had built something. From the ashes of her destroyed marriage, from the pain of abandonment, from the struggle of raising a child with special needs alone, she had built a lighthouse. And she was just getting started. August 2016. 3 months after the lighthouse opened, the center was growing. Slowly, but growing. They now served 15 children regularly. Victoria had secured 2 more grants and some donations from local Charleston businesses. It wasn't profit yet, but it was sustaining the business. Thomas, now 5, was making progress. Small progress that might seem insignificant to others, but which were miracles to Victoria. He had said mommy for the first time. A clear, intentional word. He had started tolerating more food textures. His sensory meltdowns were less frequent. Victoria had developed a routine. She woke up at 5 in the morning, prepared Thomas, and took him to therapy at the lighthouse itself at 7. While he was in session, she managed the center. At 11, she took a break to eat lunch with him. Always the same food, in the same place, with the same utensils. Routine was paramount. In the afternoon, more therapies or administrative work. At night, after putting Thomas to bed, she worked on freelance jobs until late. It was exhausting, but it was theirs. On a particularly hot August morning, Victoria was at Common Ground Coffee on King Street. It was her one luxury, a real coffee, once a week, at that charming coffee shop in the historic heart of Charleston. 20 minutes all to herself, while Thomas was with his favorite therapist, Lisa. She was reviewing grant proposals on her laptop when someone bumped into her table, spilling coffee on the keyboard. "Shit," the man said immediately. I'm sorry. Victoria quickly lifted the laptop, trying to save the equipment, but the coffee had already seeped between the keys. "I am so sorry," the man said, grabbing napkins and trying to help. "I'll pay for a new one." "Seriously?" "No," Victoria said, more sharply than she intended. Months of stress finally overflowing. "You don't understand. I can't afford a new one. This laptop has all my work, all the records for my center." She stopped, realizing she was practically yelling at a stranger. She took a deep breath. "I'm sorry," she said more calmly. "It was an accident. I'm just having a hard morning." "Let me see," the man said, gently taking the laptop. He flipped it over, removed the battery, and started drying it carefully. "I'm an IT engineer. I might be able to save it." Victoria looked at him for the first time. Tall, maybe close to 35, neat brown hair, kind blue eyes. He was wearing a simple shirt and jeans, a practical watch on his wrist. "Do you have rice at home?" he asked. "Rice, to absorb the moisture. It's the best way to save what electronics." He smiled, and it was an honest smile, with no hidden agenda. "Look, I feel terrible. Let me buy you a new coffee and give you a ride home, so you can put this in the rice. It's the least I can do." Victoria hesitated. She didn't know this man, but there was something about him that felt safe, trustworthy. "All right," she finally said, "but I need to be back here in 15 minutes. My son is in therapy nearby." Deal. He introduced himself as Caleb Richardson as they drove the short distance to her house in Mount Pleasant. He was originally from Columbia, but had moved to Charleston 3 years ago for a job. "And you," he asked, "what do you do when you're not having hard mornings?" "I run a therapy center for children with autism," Victoria said, surprised by the pride in her own voice. "The Lighthouse Therapy Center on Rivers Avenue." Caleb seemed surprised. "I saw that place. I thought about stopping by to ask if you needed any volunteer IT support. I work with several nonprofits." "You do volunteer IT work?" "Yeah, I think we all should contribute somehow, you know? And I have technical skills that can help organizations that don't have the budget for it." They arrived at Victoria's house. She got the rice, placed the laptop in the bowl as Caleb instructed. "Leave it like that for at least 24 hours, he said. "There's a good chance it will work afterwards." "Thank you," Victoria said sincerely, "for saving my laptop and for not making me feel crazy for having freaked out." It wasn't freaking out. It was the stress of an entrepreneurial mother who is doing everything alone, Caleb said softly. Then, as if realizing that might sound intrusive, "Sorry, Evelyn Porter mentioned your center. She's a friend of my aunt. She said you were doing amazing work with minimal resources." "Evelyn talked about me. Only good things. Actually," Caleb hesitated, "I was going to call the center this week anyway. I wanted to offer my services. Customer management system, data backup, digital security. Anything you need. I can't pay. I'm not charging. Like I said, it's my volunteer work." Victoria looked at him suspiciously. Men didn't just show up offering free help. Not in her experience. As if reading her thoughts, Caleb said, "Look, I understand if you're suspicious. A random guy offering help. But I swear I have no ulterior motives. Call Evelyn. She can vouch for me. Or I can give you references from other organizations I've helped." There was a simple honesty in the way he spoke. No excessive charm, no attempt to impress. Just genuine. "I'll call Evelyn," Victoria said. "And if she confirms, maybe we can talk about you helping with our system." "Perfect." Caleb smiled. "And now, let me drive you back before you're late for your son." On the way back, they talked about the center. Caleb asked smart questions about the technical challenges she faced. He didn't try to impress her with jargon. He just listened. When they arrived at common ground, Victoria reached for her bag to get out. "I hope the laptop survives," Caleb said, "and I hope to hear from you about the volunteer work." "You will," Victoria said, surprised by her own certainty. That night, after putting Thomas to bed, she called Evelyn. "Caleb Richardson?" Evelyn laughed. "That man is a modern-day saint. He helped my organization set up an entire online management system for free. Works with at least 6 nonprofits in the city. I've never met anyone so dedicated to helping without asking for anything in return." "Why does he do it?" Victoria asked. "He lost his wife 5 years ago. Cancer. She worked with children with special needs. After she died, he channeled his grief into volunteer work." Evelyn paused. "He's one of the good ones, Victoria. One of the rare ones." When Victoria hung up, she looked at the laptop and the bowl of rice. Maybe there were still good people. Maybe not all men were like Dylan. Perhaps there was hope beyond what she was building alone. The laptop survived, and Caleb became a regular presence at the lighthouse. He showed up one Wednesday morning, his own laptop in his backpack, ready to work. "Where do we start?" he asked. Victoria showed him the chaos that was her system. Disorganized spreadsheets, documents scattered in random folders, client information noted in physical notebooks. Caleb didn't judge. He just said, Let's organize this. In the following weeks, he created a complete system: client management, therapy scheduling, financial tracking, automatic data backup. Everything integrated, secure, easy to use. And while he worked, he got to know Thomas. It was one afternoon when Victoria needed to bring her son into her office. Thomas's therapist had called in sick, and there was no one to stay with him. "I'm sorry," Victoria told Caleb, who was working on the backup system. "He'll be quiet. He has his toys." "No problem," Caleb said, not even looking up from his computer. Thomas sat in his favorite corner, lining up his toy cars. He was happy, immersed in his own world. But then it happened. A therapist closed a door forcefully. The sound echoed through the building. Thomas panicked. He started screaming, a high-pitched, desperate sound. He beat his hands against his ears, rocking violently. Victoria rushed to him, starting the routine that always helped. Deep pressure, low calm voice, darkness. But Thomas was in a full meltdown. Nothing worked. He started hitting his head against the wall. That's when Caleb appeared in the doorway with his guitar. Victoria hadn't even known he'd brought a guitar. Without saying a word, Caleb sat on the floor, a few feet away from Thomas. He started playing, not an agitated song, something soft, repetitive, with a predictable pattern. Thomas stopped hitting his head. He was still agitated, still rocking, but he was listening. Caleb kept playing, the same chord progression, over and over. Predictable. Safe. Slowly, very slowly, Thomas began to calm down. His breathing slowed. The rocking became less frantic. Victoria was paralyzed, watching. In 5 years, she had never seen Thomas respond like that to a stranger. She had never seen anyone besides herself manage to reach him during a meltdown. After 10 minutes, Thomas was calm. He still wasn't looking at Caleb, still in his own world, but he was peaceful. Caleb stopped playing gently. He stood up and left the office without a word, leaving mother and son alone. When Victoria came out a few minutes later, she found Caleb in the center's kitchen, making coffee. "How did you know to do that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My wife worked with children with autism," Caleb said simply. "She taught me that music can be a bridge when words aren't. Repetitive patterns, soft tones, they create sensory safety. Your wife died 5 years ago. Breast cancer." He poured coffee for both of them. Amanda, she was incredible, dedicated her life to working with special needs children. She used to say they weren't broken, just communicating in a different language. "I'm so sorry," Victoria said. "Me too." Caleb looked out the window. "But she taught me a lot. About patience, about seeing beyond the obvious, about how true love doesn't give up just because things get hard." There was something about the way he said that. No bitterness, no anger, just longing and acceptance. "Your son is lucky to have you," Caleb said. "I know it doesn't feel like it on the hard days, but he is." "I don't always feel lucky," Victoria admitted. "Sometimes I just feel tired." "You're doing the work of 2 people all by yourself. It's normal to be tired, but look what you built." He gestured around the center. "You turned your pain into something that is helping so many other families. That's not luck. That's strength." Victoria felt tears burn her eyes. They were the first kind, genuinely kind, words a man had spoken to her in almost a year. "Thank you," she whispered, "for helping Thomas, for helping the center, for being human." Caleb smiled. "It's the least we owe each other, don't you think?" That night, driving home with Thomas asleep in the back seat, Victoria realized that something had changed. It wasn't attraction. It was still too early for that. Her wounds were still too raw. But it was trust. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, not all men ran away when things got tough. Caleb continued showing up at the lighthouse, always offering help, never asking for anything in return. He fixed computers, installed a new security system, taught Victoria how to use software that made her life much easier. And he brought the guitar. On the mornings he was at the center, he played in the waiting room. Soft songs, repetitive patterns. The children loved it, even the ones who didn't speak, the ones who didn't make eye contact, responded to his music. Patricia, Marcus's mother, commented one day, "He's special. You realize he's special, don't you?" Victoria realized it, but she was afraid to realize it, afraid to open her heart again and find out she had trusted the wrong person. It was in October, 2 months after meeting Caleb, that the lighthouse faced a crisis. Their biggest grant was denied, $20,000 they were counting on to expand services. Without that money, they would barely be able to maintain current operations. Victoria was in the office, staring at the refusal letter, when Caleb walked in. "Bad news?" he asked, seeing her expression. "They denied our grant. The big one from the state. They said our operation is still too small, that we don't have enough history." "How much did you need?" $20,000, but not just for expansion, to survive. "Our savings are running out, Caleb. I don't know how much longer we can keep the doors open." Caleb was silent for a moment. Then, "What if we organized a fundraiser? An event? Yes, a charity gala. Charleston loves those things. Rich people who want to do good while dressing well." He smiled. "But we'll do it differently. We'll make it personal. We'll show people the real impact of the lighthouse, the families you've helped, the children who are progressing. We'll make them understand why this matters." "I don't know how to organize a gala." "But you used to organize events, right? At your old company?" Victoria nodded. "Then you know how to do it, and I'll help you. Evelyn can help. We can do this." "Why are you doing all this?" Victoria asked suddenly, the question that had been stuck in her throat for weeks. "Why are you helping so much?" Caleb looked at her with those honest blue eyes. "Because when Amanda was sick, a lot of people helped me. Strangers who showed up and made a difference. And I promised that, if I survived it, I would pay it forward." He paused. "And because what you are doing is important, Victoria. Truly important. And you shouldn't have to do it alone." Those words broke something in Victoria, the armor she had built around her heart. For the first time in months, she let someone see the depth of her exhaustion, her fear, her loneliness. "I am so tired," she whispered. "So tired of doing everything alone." "Then let someone help," Caleb said gently. "Let me help." And for the first time since Dylan left, Victoria let him. The preparation for the gala was intense. Victoria and Caleb, along with Evelyn and Sarah, worked for 6 weeks to create something special. They secured the ballroom at the Charleston Place Hotel for a reduced price. Margaret Chin knew the manager and pulled some favors. Caleb used his IT connections to set up an online donation system. Evelyn brought her network of Charleston's high society contacts. But it was Victoria who had the idea that made all the difference. "I want it to be about the children," she said at a planning meeting. "Not about numbers and statistics, about real stories. I want people to see what the lighthouse really means to these families." And so Voices of the Lighthouse was born, a presentation where mothers from the center would share their stories, not in video or text, but live, face-to-face with the potential donors. Patricia was the first to volunteer. "I'll tell my story," she said firmly. "People need to know what it's like to be abandoned with a child who bangs his head against the wall until he bleeds. They need to know what the lighthouse is to us." Other mothers joined. Carmen, whose 7-year-old son was nonverbal. Jennifer, who had twins on the spectrum. Rachel, a single mother of 3 children, 2 with autism, each with a story of abandonment, struggle, and finally, hope found at the lighthouse. The November 2016 night arrived cold and clear. The Charleston Place ballroom was transformed. Sarah had created decorations that incorporated drawings from the children at the center, art that many would call just scribbles, but which for those families represented developmental milestones, communication expressed through color. Victoria wore the only formal dress she still had from the time when she and Dylan attended corporate events. It was looser now. She had lost weight from stress, but it fit. "You look beautiful," Caleb said when he saw her. He wore a simple suit, but was sharp. "And you are going to crush it tonight." "I'm nervous," Victoria admitted. "What if no one shows up? What if people don't care?" "They will show up, and they will care, because you are going to make them understand." Thomas was with Sarah that night at home, following his routine carefully. Victoria had felt guilty for not bringing him, but he didn't cope well with crowded, noisy events. Forcing him to go would be selfishness, not love. The doors opened at 7, and people came. It wasn't a packed hall, maybe 80 people, but it was more than Victoria had expected. Charleston business owners, local philanthropists, some well-known figures from Southern society. Evelyn had worked her connections well. Dinner was served, an elegant but not excessive menu, appropriate for a charity event. Victoria circled the tables, chatting, thanking people for coming, too nervous to eat. Then came the time for the presentations. Victoria climbed onto the small stage set up at one end of the room. The microphone felt heavy in her hands. "Good evening," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for being here. I know Charleston is full of worthy causes that deserve attention, money, time. So thank you for choosing to be here tonight to learn about the Lighthouse Therapy Center." She paused, looking at the sea of faces. "A year ago, my life fell apart. My 4-year-old son was diagnosed with severe autism. My husband abandoned us. My business failed. I was left alone, with no money, no plan, with a child who needed thousands of dollars in therapies that I couldn't afford." The room was completely silent. I could have given up. God knows there were nights when I considered it. But I looked at my son. This perfect boy the world told me was broken, and I knew I had to fight. Not just for him, but for all the other mothers who were where I was. Alone, afraid, unsure if they would survive the next day. Victoria saw a few people wiping their eyes. The lighthouse was born from that pain. But it's not about pain. It's about hope, about community, about showing these mothers they are not alone, that their children are not broken, that there's light at the end of the tunnel. She gestured to Patricia, who was sitting in the front row. "But I shouldn't be the one to tell you this. It should be the mothers the lighthouse serves. Patricia, could you come up here?" Patricia stepped onto the stage, hands shaking but determination on her face. "My name is Patricia Johnson," she began. "I am the mother of 6-year-old Marcus. He has severe autism and ADHD. When he was diagnosed at 3, my husband left home, literally packed his bags and walked out, said he hadn't signed up to raise a retarded child." There were shocked murmurs in the audience. "I spent 2 years alone. Marcus would bang his head against the wall until he bled. He wouldn't sleep. He screamed for hours. I didn't have money for private therapies. The public waiting lists were years long. I thought about ending it all. Honestly, I thought it would be kinder to let us both go than to continue in that hell." Patricia took a deep breath, tears streaming freely down her face. "Then I found the lighthouse. Victoria didn't ask if I could pay. She asked me what Marcus needed, and when I said I couldn't afford it, she said, 'We'll figure out a way.' Marcus started therapy the next day. No endless paperwork, no bureaucracy, no judgment." She turned to Victoria. "Today, Marcus sleeps through the night. He is learning to communicate through an alternative communication device. He still has hard days, but I'm not fighting alone anymore. And honestly, the lighthouse saved 2 lives, his and mine." Patricia returned to her seat to applause. Then Carmen went up. Then Jennifer. Then Rachel. Story after story of abandonment and redemption, of pain turned into hope. When the last mother finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Caleb stepped onto the stage for the technical part, explaining the financial needs, the expansion plans, how the donations would be used. He had transformed dry numbers into tangible needs. Every $5,000 was one more child who could be served for free. Every $10,000 was another therapist they could hire. "The lighthouse isn't asking you to save the world," Caleb concluded. "It's asking you to help save these worlds, these mothers, these children, these families, one at a time." The donations began. First came the online donations through the system Caleb had set up. Then checks delivered in person. Business owners approached Victoria, making promises of corporate donations, matching funds, and fundraising events at their own companies. Margaret Chin donated $10,000 on the spot. "To the woman who is turning her pain into light for others," she said, hugging Victoria. A technology businessman named Robert Harrison committed to $15,000 annually for the next 3 years. My brother has autism, he explained. My mother fought alone in the 70s, when there was nothing available. She would have loved to have a place like the lighthouse. Evelyn had tears in her eyes as she watched the donations pile up. You did it, darling. You really did it. But the most surprising moment came from an elderly couple in their 70s. They approached Victoria near the end of the night. We are George and Linda Watson, the man said. We didn't know about the lighthouse before tonight, but your story, it touched us deeply. We lost our son 20 years ago, Linda added, her voice soft. He had autism, but back then, there were no resources. He was institutionalized at 12 because we couldn't give him the care he needed. He died there at 25. Her voice broke. We spent 2 decades carrying guilt, thinking that if there had been a place like the lighthouse, if we had had support, maybe. George cleared his throat. We want to donate $100,000 in memory of our son, James, so that other families have the chance we didn't. Victoria could barely believe it. $100,000. It was more than they had hoped to raise all night. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say you will keep doing what you are doing, Linda said, holding Victoria's hands. Say you will save these families. For James. For all the Jameses the world lost because we didn't know how to do better. When the night ended, Victoria and Caleb sat in an empty corner of the ballroom, exhausted but radiant. Sarah was helping pack up the decorations. Evelyn had left with promises of meetings with more potential donors. $163,000, Caleb said, looking at the tablet where the donations were recorded. In one night, you raised $163,000. Victoria couldn't process the number. It was more money than she had seen in her entire life. It was the difference between surviving and thriving. It was the chance to help not just 15 families, but 50, 100. We raised it, she corrected. I couldn't have done it without you. Without Evelyn, Sarah, Margaret. Without all those mothers who had the courage to share their stories. But you were the one who started it, Caleb said softly. You were the one who turned your pain into something bigger. This is all you, Victoria. She looked at him. This man who had appeared in her life by accident, who had stayed by choice, who had become something she hadn't expected, a friend, a partner, maybe eventually, something more. Thank you, she said simply, for believing in this, for believing in me. Always, Caleb replied, and there was a promise in that word that made Victoria's heart race. When Victoria arrived home that night, Thomas was asleep. Sarah had followed the routine perfectly. She sat on the edge of his bed, watching her son sleep peacefully. We're going to be fine, she whispered. More than fine. We're going to thrive, my love. And we're going to help so many other families thrive too. Thomas stirred in his sleep, and Victoria could have sworn he smiled. Outside, Charleston slept under a starry sky, and in the heart of the city, a lighthouse shone a little brighter. January 2017 brought transformative changes to the lighthouse. With the money from the gala and the ongoing corporate donations Evelyn had secured, Victoria was able to expand. She hired 5 more therapists, including a music therapy specialist, an idea inspired by the impact Caleb had with his guitar. Margaret Chin offered the upper floor of the building, previously used for storage, at the same rental price. Victoria transformed that space into a parent support area, a place where mothers, and the few fathers who showed up, could sit, have coffee, share their struggles, and not feel alone. Amanda Family Support Center. Victoria named the space in honor of Caleb's late wife. When she told him about the tribute, she saw tears in his eyes for the first time. She would have loved this, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you. The lighthouse was now serving 42 children. 25 of them attended for free or with substantial discounts, sustained by donations. Success stories began to spread throughout Charleston. Marcus, Patricia's son, was progressing rapidly. He had started using 3-word phrases, could tolerate more stimulating environments, and even smiled at strangers occasionally. Emma, a 6-year-old girl who had been completely nonverbal when she arrived, had spoken her first word after 8 months of intensive therapy. Mommy. Her mother, Jennifer, cried so much she had to step outside to collect herself. And Thomas. Thomas was thriving. At 5 years old, he now used full sentences, though he was still often echolalic, repeating things he heard. His sensory meltdowns had decreased dramatically. He had even started playing near other children, not exactly with them yet, but tolerating their presence, which was a huge step. And then there was the music. Thomas had discovered music. Caleb had noticed the boy's interest and began teaching him basic piano. Thomas had an incredible memory. He could hear a song once and reproduce the notes perfectly. He didn't understand the emotion of music, but he understood its patterns, its math. He's got real talent, Caleb told Victoria one afternoon, after a piano session with Thomas. With the right training, he could be exceptional. He already is exceptional, Victoria said softly. But yes, I'll find a music teacher who specializes in children like him. The relationship between Victoria and Caleb had evolved slowly. He was still volunteering at the lighthouse, showing up 3 or 4 times a week. But now he also came on weekends, bringing coffee, offering to stay with Thomas while Victoria ran errands, just being present. It wasn't romance yet. Neither of them rushed it. Victoria's wounds were still healing, and Caleb completely respected that. But it was a deep friendship, a partnership, trust being rebuilt brick by brick. In March, Victoria received an unexpected call. Miss Santos. The voice was formal, professional. This is Karen Mitchell from WCBD News, Charleston Cares program. We like to do a feature on the Lighthouse Therapy Center. We've heard incredible stories about the work you're doing. A TV feature. Victoria hesitated. Public exposure meant scrutiny. It meant more people would learn her story, her failed marriage, her struggles. But it also meant more families could discover the lighthouse. More children who needed help could be reached. Yes, she finally said. We'd love to participate. The film crew arrived a week later. They filmed therapies in action, with parents' permission, interviewed several mothers, and captured the lighthouse's unique atmosphere, a balance between therapeutic professionalism and family warmth. And they interviewed Victoria. The lighthouse was born out of personal need. She told the camera, surprisingly calm. My son was diagnosed with severe autism at a time when everything in my life was falling apart, and I realized that if I was struggling this much, there were hundreds of other mothers in the same situation. The lighthouse is for them, to show them they're not alone. And your son's father? The reporter asked. Is he involved with the center? Victoria paused. She could lie, give a diplomatic answer, but she chose truth. No. He left us shortly after the diagnosis. That's a reality for many families with special needs children. Fathers often can't handle it and walk away. 80% of marriages with a child with severe autism end in divorce. We want the lighthouse to be a support system for those single mothers carrying everything on their own. The feature aired on a Thursday night, and it exploded. The lighthouse phone rang nonstop Friday morning. Families wanting to enroll their children. Volunteers offering help, companies asking about sponsorships. But there was also a call Victoria never expected. Victoria? It's Eleanor. Eleanor Torres, Dylan's mother. Victoria's heart froze. Eleanor, her ex-mother-in-law, the woman who had taken her son's side when everything fell apart, saying Victoria was being too dramatic about Thomas's needs. Eleanor, Victoria said cautiously, what can I do for you? I saw the segment on TV. The older woman's voice was different, broken, about the center, about Thomas, about you. Silence. I owe you an apology, Eleanor continued. I didn't understand. When Dylan told me about the diagnosis, about how you were obsessed with therapies, I thought you were overreacting. I took his side. I said he was right to want other options. You told me I should institutionalize my son, Victoria recalled, the pain still fresh. I did, and I was horribly, terribly wrong. Eleanor paused, and Victoria heard a stifled sob. It's been a year since I've seen my grandson. Dylan forbade me from contacting you, said it would be disloyal to his new family. But I saw Thomas on TV, that beautiful boy. so grown. And I saw what you've built from the pain my son caused. And I realized the villain in this story wasn't you. It was us. Victoria didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to hang up, to cut off that burned bridge. But part of her remembered that Eleanor had once been kind, present during Thomas's early years, before the diagnosis changed everything. Why are you calling, Eleanor? Because I want to be part of my grandson's life again. If you'll allow me. I know I don't have the right to ask, but Thomas deserves to know his grandmother. And you shouldn't have to do this alone. Not when there's family who could help. Family who abandoned me, Victoria said. Not with anger, just truth. Yes, and I'll carry that shame for the rest of my life. But maybe I can start making it right now. Please, Victoria, let me see my grandson again. Victoria looked out the office window. Thomas was in therapy, working with the new speech therapist. He looked so different from the frightened, overwhelmed boy of a year ago. He was growing, thriving. Did he deserve to know his grandmother, even one who had failed him at first? I'll think about it, Victoria said finally. But I need time, Eleanor. You hurt me. You hurt Thomas by not standing up for him when you should have. I understand, and I'll wait as long as it takes. When she hung up, Victoria found herself thinking about forgiveness, about second chances, about how sometimes people have to lose something to understand its value. That night, she talked to Caleb about it. They were in the Amanda Family Support Center after everyone had gone home. It was where they often ended their days now, talking about everything and nothing. What do you think? Victoria asked. Should I let Eleanor see Thomas again? What does your heart say? My heart says she doesn't deserve it, that she abandoned us when we needed her most. And your head? Victoria sighed. My head says Thomas deserves to know his grandmother. That family matters, even when it's imperfect. That forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past, but freeing the future. Sounds like you already know the answer, Caleb said gently. But it's hard, forgiving when it still hurts. Of course it is. True forgiveness always is. Caleb looked down at his hands. When Amanda was dying, she did something that made me furious. She refused the experimental treatment that could have given her a few more months. Said she'd rather die with dignity than live in agony. Victoria hadn't known that. I was so angry. I felt like she was giving up, leaving me. I spent months angry at her, even after she died, until I realized she wasn't giving up. She was choosing how she wanted her story to end, and holding on to anger only poisoned the good memories we had. How did you forgive her? By understanding that loving someone means accepting their choices, even when we don't agree, even when it hurts. He looked at Victoria. Eleanor made bad choices, but she's trying to make different ones now. Maybe she deserves a chance to try. Victoria nodded, absorbing his words. I'll call her tomorrow. Set up a meeting, but it'll be on my terms. Slowly. And if at any point I feel it's not right for Thomas, it's over. Sounds fair, Caleb said. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of comfortable silence that only exists between people who truly know each other. Caleb, Victoria finally said. Yes, thank you. For being here. For being you. He smiled. That honest smile she'd come to cherish so much. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. And in that moment, in the space named after a woman he had loved and lost, Victoria realized something. She was falling in love with Caleb Richardson. It wasn't the dramatic, impulsive love of youth. It was something deeper, more sustainable, built on friendship, respect, and shared values. It was the kind of love that survives storms, because it's built on solid ground. And for the first time since Dylan left, Victoria allowed herself to believe that maybe she could have that she deserved it. She and Thomas both deserve someone who stayed. Thomas's first meeting with Eleanor took place on a sunny Saturday morning in April. Victoria chose a park in Mount Pleasant, a neutral territory, outdoors, where Thomas felt comfortable. She had explained to him that Grandma was coming to visit, though she wasn't sure how much he understood or remembered. Eleanor arrived nervously, carrying a wrapped gift. She looked older than the last time Victoria had seen her. More gray hair, deeper lines around her eyes. but her eyes still shone with determination and something that looked like hope. "Hi, Thomas," she said softly, crouching down to his level. He didn't look at her, focused instead on the toy cars he was lining up on the grass. "Thomas," Victoria said gently, "do you remember Grandma?" He didn't respond, but Victoria noticed he'd stopped arranging his cars. He was listening. "I brought something for you," Eleanor said, placing the present near him, but not too close. She had learned not to invade his space. Thomas looked at the package, but didn't touch it. "You can open it," Victoria encouraged. Slowly, Thomas picked up the gift. He tore the wrapping paper. He loved the tactile sensation of tearing paper, and revealed a small children's keyboard. His eyes lit up. Thomas loved music now. He pressed one key, then another. He began to play a simple melody Caleb had taught him. "He's playing," Eleanor whispered, tears filling her eyes. "Victoria, he's really playing music." "He's come a long way," Victoria said, allowing herself to feel proud. "He's in therapy 5 days a week. He has a natural gift for music." They sat on the grass while Thomas played, Eleanor keeping a respectful distance, but clearly taking in every detail of her grandson. "You've done something incredible," Eleanor finally said, "with the center, with Thomas. On your own. Not entirely on my own. I've had friends, people who believed. Dylan doesn't know what he lost." It was the first time his name had been spoken aloud. Victoria felt a pang, but smaller than it used to be. "How is he?" she asked, not because she truly cared, but because it felt like the polite thing to do. "Broken." Eleanor looked down at her hands. The business he started with Tiffany went bankrupt in 6 months. She left when the money ran out. He's living in a small apartment in North Charleston, working in sales, drinking too much, alone. Victoria should have felt satisfaction, karma, justice, but instead, she felt only a hollow sadness. "I'm sorry to hear that." "No, you're not," Eleanor said without judgment. "And that's okay. He doesn't deserve your sympathy. I just wanted you to know he's paying for his own choices." "Does he ask about Thomas?" Eleanor hesitated. "No, I think he's too ashamed. Or maybe he just doesn't care. Honestly, I don't know who my son is anymore." They watched Thomas in silence for a moment. Can I do this again? See Thomas?" Eleanor asked. "Maybe visit the lighthouse? I could even volunteer, help out somehow." Victoria looked at Thomas, happy with his new keyboard, and then at Eleanor, a woman carrying remorse and seeking redemption. "Yes," she said finally, "but you need to understand, if Dylan finds out and tries to cause trouble, you'll have to choose sides. Because I won't let anyone hurt Thomas again. Not even family. I understand. And you have my word, this time, I'm on the right side. On my grandson's side." The relationship between Eleanor and Thomas grew slowly over the following weeks. She began showing up at the lighthouse, offering to help with administrative tasks, bringing snacks for the mothers in the family support area. And something unexpected happened. She and Thomas bonded through music. Eleanor had played piano when she was young, and she started playing for Thomas during her visits. He would sit beside her on the bench, watching her fingers, eventually imitating her movements. "He's gifted," Eleanor told Victoria after one of those sessions. "Truly gifted. He needs a professional teacher." "I'm looking," Victoria admitted. "But music teachers willing to work with autistic children are rare and expensive." "Let me take care of it," Eleanor said. And a week later, she introduced Professor Henry Morris, a retired pianist in his 70s who had spent his life working with special needs children. "No charge," Professor Morris said when Victoria tried to discuss payment. "Eleanor's an old friend, and any child with the talent she described deserves to be taught." Thomas blossomed under Professor Morris's guidance. Music became more than a hobby. It became his way of expressing himself, of communicating when words failed. Meanwhile, the lighthouse continued to grow. By June 2017, they were serving 60 children. Robert Harrison, the tech entrepreneur who had donated at the gala, proposed something ambitious. "I want to create a permanent fund," he said during a meeting with Victoria and Evelyn. $1 million in an endowment that will generate enough interest to sustain the lighthouse indefinitely, to make sure there are always resources to help families for free. Victoria could hardly believe it. $1 million. Financial sustainability, forever. Why would you do that, she asked. Because my brother died in an institution, Robert said simply. Alone, scared, far from family. He was 32, but functionally still a child. If the lighthouse had existed when we were young, maybe his life could have been different. I can't change his past, but I can change the future for other kids. The endowment was established. For the first time, the lighthouse was truly secure financially. You did this, Caleb told Victoria when the news became official. They were on the lighthouse rooftop, watching the Charleston sunset. It had become their favorite place to talk. From bankrupt and abandoned to building something that will last generations. That's extraordinary. We did this, Victoria corrected. You, Evelyn, Sarah, Margaret, all the mothers who trusted me. It was a team effort. Maybe. But you were the heart of it, the driving force. Victoria looked out over the city below, the historic church spires, the harbor where large ships rested, the lights beginning to flicker as day turned into night. Charleston had been the stage for so much pain, but also for so much growth. Can I ask you something personal? Caleb said suddenly. Of course. Do you still love Dylan? The question caught her off guard. Victoria thought carefully before answering. No, she finally said. I think I stopped loving him the moment I saw those bank statements. When I realized he had chosen himself over our son. Over us. But what? But I still feel something. Not love. Maybe pity? Or just sadness for what could have been if he'd been stronger. If he had chosen to stay. You deserve someone who chooses to stay, Caleb said quietly. I know. It took me a while, but now I know. He turned to face her completely. Victoria, I need to say something. And if it's not the right time, you can stop me. But I have to say it before I lose my nerve. Her heart quickened. Okay. I've fallen in love with you. The words came out quickly, nervously. It wasn't sudden. It happened gradually, a little more every day. The way you fight for Thomas, the way you turn pain into purpose, the strength you have, even when you don't see it. You're extraordinary, Victoria, and I want to be by your side, not just as a friend or volunteer, as a partner, if you want that too. Tears burned her eyes, but they were good tears this time. I've fallen in love with you too, she said, her voice trembling but sure. And it scares me. It scares me because the last time I loved someone, he destroyed me. Destroyed me and my son. I'm not him. I know you're not. But Thomas, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Thomas will always need care. He'll always have hard days. He'll always be different. If we start something, you need to understand that you're not just entering a relationship with me. You're entering one with both of us. And that's a lot to ask of someone. Caleb took her hands gently. Victoria, I'm already in a relationship with both of you. I've already chosen to be here every day. The only difference now is that I'm asking permission to make it official, to be a permanent part of your lives. And what if it gets hard? What if Thomas regresses? What if there are bad years? Then we face them together, because that's what partners do. They don't run when it gets hard. They stay and fight side by side. Victoria looked into those honest blue eyes and saw everything Dylan wasn't. Loyalty where there had been betrayal. Strength where there had been weakness. Love where there had been abandonment. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's try. Let's see where this goes. Caleb smiled, that smile she loved, and softly, respectfully kissed her. It was sweet and patient, promising time, promising care, promising he wasn't going anywhere. When they pulled apart, Victoria was crying and smiling at once. Thomas likes you, she said. That's rare. He doesn't connect easily with people. I love that kid, Caleb said sincerely. Not because I'm trying to win you over, but because he's amazing. Smart, talented, strong. Just like his mom. They stayed on the rooftop until the stars appeared, talking about the future, about dreams, about what it would be like to build a life together, slowly, carefully. respecting the scars both carried from lost loves. When Victoria got home that night, she found Thomas still awake, sitting at the piano Eleanor had given him, playing softly. "Hey, my love," she said, kissing the top of his head. "You should be asleep." "Music," Thomas said simply. It was how he explained many things now. Single words that carried entire worlds. "Yes, music. You're getting so good." "Caleb." Victoria was surprised. Thomas rarely asked about people. "What about Caleb?" "Caleb good." 2 words, but they meant everything. Thomas, in his own way, was giving his approval. "Yes," Victoria said, hugging her son. "Caleb is good. Very good." And that night, for the first time in 2 years, Victoria went to sleep not just with hope for the future, but with certainty. Certainty that she had built something lasting at the lighthouse. Certainty that she deserved love again. Certainty that she and Thomas would be okay, more than okay. They would be happy. October 2017 marked 2 years since Thomas's diagnosis and 18 months since the lighthouse had opened. The center was now a reference point in Charleston and was starting to gain recognition throughout South Carolina. Universities were sending occupational therapy and speech pathology students for internships. Other cities were inquiring about replicating the model, and the relationship between Victoria and Caleb had blossomed. They hadn't rushed things. They didn't live together yet. Both agreed Thomas needed stability and routine, and big changes could be disruptive. But Caleb was a constant presence, having dinner with them 3 times a week, spending Sundays together, becoming a natural part of their lives. Thomas had grown used to him. He even looked for Caleb when he wasn't around. "Caleb music?" he would ask, his vocabulary steadily expanding. It was on one of those Sunday afternoons, the 3 of them at Waterfront Park, that Caleb brought up an idea that would change everything again. "I've been thinking," he began, pushing Thomas on the swing while Victoria watched. "The lighthouse is incredible, but there's still something missing." "What's that?" Victoria asked. "Practical financial support for families. You offer free or subsidized therapies, which is huge. But these mothers are still struggling with everything else: special diets, sensory equipment, home modifications, medical bills. Many of them are working 2 jobs, exhausted, just trying to stay afloat." Victoria knew he was right. She saw it every day. Mothers skipping meals to save money, driving cars that were falling apart because they couldn't afford repairs, choosing between paying the light bill or buying the special foods their children needed. "So what are you proposing?" "An emergency fund for families. Small grants, $1,000 or $2,000 for emergencies. Car breaks down. Covered. Need a communication iPad and insurance won't pay. Covered. Heater goes out in winter and there's no money to fix it. Covered." "That would be amazing," Victoria said. "But where would the money come from? Our permanent fund is for the center's operations." "I know. That's why I'm proposing something bigger." Caleb stopped the swing, letting Thomas run toward the playground. A large-scale corporate partnership program. Not just one-time donations. Companies committing to ongoing monthly support. 10, 20, 30 companies, each donating $1,000 a month. That would give us $20,000 to $30,000 every month for the emergency fund. Companies don't just do that because we ask. No, but they do it for publicity, for corporate social responsibility, for tax breaks. And I have connections. Caleb smiled. "I've worked in IT for 20 years. I know CEOs, CFOs, sustainability managers from dozens of companies in the area. Let me use those connections." Victoria looked at Thomas, happy climbing on the playground, then at Caleb, this man who kept showing up with solutions, with hope, with roads where she only saw walls. "Let's do it," she decided. The next 3 months were intense. Caleb used every connection he had, setting up meetings with companies across Charleston and Columbia. Victoria went with him, presenting the lighthouse, sharing real stories of families who would be helped. The first company to sign on was Boeing, which had a major presence in Charleston, $2,000 a month. Then came Blackbaud, a software company. Then MUSC, the Medical University of South Carolina. One by one, companies joined. Some were corporate giants fulfilling their social responsibility quotas. Others were smaller local businesses, owners personally moved by the stories they heard. By January 2018, they had 23 partner companies committed, $38,000 a month for the new Lighthouse Family Support Program. The first grant went to Patricia, mother of Marcus. Her car had broken down, and she couldn't afford the repair. Without it, she couldn't take Marcus to therapy or get to her job. She was about to lose everything. The Lighthouse paid for the repair, $1,200 that saved not just a car, but a job, a home, a life. Patricia cried in Victoria's office when she got the news. "You saved my life," she said through tears. "You literally saved my life." "It wasn't me," Victoria said, hugging her. "It was a community deciding to care, deciding that no one should have to fight alone." The stories multiplied. Carmen, whose son needed an expensive special diet, $1,000 covered 3 months of food. Jennifer, whose twins needed special sensory beds, $2,500 provided safety and sleep. Rachel, who couldn't pay her heating bill during South Carolina's bitter winter, $600 kept her house warm. Small amounts making enormous differences, and the companies started seeing the impact. These weren't just numbers on sustainability reports. They were real stories of changed lives. Some companies increased their contributions. Others brought in new partners. In March 2018, Victoria received a call she never expected. "Ms. Santos, this is Jennifer Morrison from the governor's office. Governor McMaster would like to meet with you." The governor of the state. The meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks later in Columbia. Victoria was nervous. Politics wasn't her territory. But Caleb encouraged her. "You built something the state should have built. Of course they want to meet you." Governor Henry McMaster was an older man, gray-haired, with the stately bearing typical of a Southern politician. But when he shook Victoria's hand, his eyes were kind. "Ms. Santos, I've been hearing incredible things about the Lighthouse," he said, sitting at his desk in Columbia. "I was reviewing the work you've done, and frankly, I'm embarrassed. Embarrassed that a citizen had to create, on her own, what the state should have been providing." "Governor, please let me finish." He leaned forward. "South Carolina has some of the worst autism services in the country. Years-long waiting lists, underfunded programs, families fleeing the state to find help. It's unacceptable. And then you appear, a single mother who lost everything and somehow created a model that works better than anything we offer." Victoria didn't know where this was going. "I want to propose a partnership," the governor continued, "between the state of South Carolina and the Lighthouse Therapy Center. State funding to expand your model to other cities, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg, to create a network of lighthouses across the state." Victoria could barely breathe. "A statewide network?" "Yes, keeping your philosophy, your family-centered approach, your holistic support model, but with state resources to scale it. I'm talking about an initial investment of $5 million to start, with more in subsequent fiscal years." $5 million? A statewide network? The Lighthouse wouldn't just be one beacon. It would be many, lighting the entire state. "But there's one condition," the governor said. "You would have to be the executive director of the entire network. No one knows this work like you. No one has your passion or your vision. We need you to lead." Victoria thought of Thomas. She thought of all the Patricias, Carmens, Jennifers, and Rachels out there, in small towns all across South Carolina, fighting alone, not knowing help was possible. "Yes," she said without hesitation. "Absolutely yes." The news exploded across South Carolina media. "The warrior mom who became a statewide CEO," read one headline. "From abandoned to architect of change," said another. But for Victoria, it wasn't about titles or recognition. It was about multiplying what she had learned through pain, about making sure no mother ever again had to feel the loneliness she felt in that diagnosis room nearly 3 years ago. That night, celebrating with Caleb, Sarah, Evelyn, and Eleanor in her small apartment, Victoria looked around at the people who had become her chosen family. "A toast," Sarah said, raising her glass, "to the strongest woman I know, who turned the worst day of her life into salvation for hundreds of families." To the lighthouse, Evelyn added, and to the many beacons yet to come. To my daughter, Eleanor said softly, tears in her eyes. Because that's what you are now, Victoria, the daughter I'm proud to call mine. Victoria looked at Thomas, sitting on Caleb's lap, the two of them flipping through a book about music. Her son was nearly 6 now, attending regular school with specialized support, playing piano at a level far beyond his age. He had friends, not many, but some, which was a miracle in itself. And he was happy. Against all odds, Thomas was happy. To love, Caleb said, looking straight at Victoria. To the kind of love that doesn't give up, that turns pain into purpose, that lights the dark. Victoria sipped her wine, but his words lingered. Love that doesn't give up. That's what the lighthouse was made of. That's what her entire journey had been made of. More music, Thomas said suddenly, looking at Caleb. Of course, champ, Caleb said, walking over to the keyboard in the corner. He began to play, and Thomas joined in, his small hands finding the right notes with uncanny precision. And Victoria watched her son, the one the world once called broken, creating beautiful music. The man who chose to love them when he didn't have to. The community she built when everything had fallen apart. 3 years ago, in that diagnosis room, she thought her world had ended. She hadn't known then. It was only just beginning. May 2018. The lighthouse expansion was in full swing. Victoria traveled 3 days a week to Columbia, Greenville, and Spartanburg, establishing new centers. Caleb often accompanied her, leaving his IT job to become the Lighthouse Network's Director of Technology, a position created specifically for him. Thomas, now 6.5, was thriving under Eleanor's care, who had become a devoted grandmother, and through regular sessions with Professor Morris. His music had advanced so much that the professor mentioned the possibility of public performances in the future. Life finally seemed stable, happy, complete. That was when the phone rang. Victoria was in Greenville, overseeing renovations for what would be the second lighthouse location, when she saw the unfamiliar number. Normally, she would have ignored it, but something made her answer. Victoria Santos? Yes, this is Dr. Michael Chun from MUSC Hospital. I have a patient here who listed you as an emergency contact. Dylan Torres. The world stopped. Dylan. She could barely say his name. Yes, ma'am. He was admitted to the ER last night. Advanced stage pancreatic cancer, unfortunately. He's asking to see you. Cancer. Advanced stage. The words didn't seem real. I need a moment, Victoria said, her mind spinning. Of course. But ma'am, if you could come soon, his time is limited. Limited? He was dying. Victoria hung up, her hands trembling. Caleb was across the room, discussing therapy layouts with a contractor. He saw her expression and came over immediately. What happened? Dylan. He's in the hospital. Pancreatic cancer. Late stage. She looked at Caleb, eyes wide. He's dying. Caleb was silent for a long moment. What do you want to do? I don't know. He abandoned us, Caleb. Left Thomas when he was 4. Chose himself over our son. Why should I go? You shouldn't, Caleb said honestly. He doesn't deserve your presence. But the question isn't what he deserves, it's what you need. Whether you'll regret not going. Whether you'll carry that guilt. Victoria thought about Thomas. Thought about how she'd explained to her son one day that his father died alone because she chose not to go. I need to go, she said finally. Not for him. For me. For Thomas. To close that chapter completely. Do you want me to come with you? No. This is something I need to do alone. The MUSC hospital in Charleston was familiar. Victoria had come here several times for Thomas's early appointments. But walking those sterile white halls now, she felt something different. Not anger, not love, just a deep sadness for all that could have been different. Dylan was in a private room on the 6th floor. The nurse guided her there. He's awake, but weak, she explained. Please don't tire him too much. Victoria paused at the door, took a deep breath, and entered. The man in the bed barely resembled Dylan. He'd lost so much weight, he was almost skeletal. His once thick, wavy brown hair had thinned. His skin had a yellowish tint, classic jaundice from liver failure. But his eyes were still the same, and they filled with tears when they saw her. "Vic," he whispered, voice raspy. "You came. The hospital said it was urgent. I know I have no right to call you. After everything," he coughed, a deep, painful sound. "But there was no one else. My mother tried to visit, but I was so cruel to her when she found out about you and Thomas." Victoria pulled up a chair and sat down, keeping her distance. "Did the doctors tell you the prognosis?" 3, maybe 4 weeks. If I'm lucky. But honestly, Vic, I don't know if I want to be lucky. The pain is," he closed his eyes, "it's unbearable." She should have felt satisfaction, karma, cosmic justice. But looking at that broken man, all she felt was pity. "When did you find out?" 6 months ago. Ignored the symptoms at first. By the time I went to the doctor, it had spread, liver, lungs. There's nothing they can do except manage the pain. Heavy silence filled the room. Machines beeped softly. From the hallway came muffled voices of nurses and other patients. "How's Thomas?" Dylan asked finally. The question caught her off guard. In 3 years, he had never asked. Not once. "He's good. Great, actually. Exceeding every expectation. He's in regular school now, with support. Plays piano at an advanced level. Has friends. He's happy, Dylan." Tears ran down his gaunt face. "I lost him, didn't I? My son. I lost the chance to know him." "You chose to lose him," Victoria said. Not cruelly, but truthfully. "When things got hard, you ran. That was your choice." "I know. God, Vic, I know. And I've lived with that every day. Seeing you on TV, in the papers. Single mother turns tragedy into triumph. Lighthouse Therapy Center changes lives. You became everything we dreamed of being together. And he looked around the sterile hospital room. "I became this. Why are you telling me all this?" "Because I'm dying, Vic. And I don't want to die the coward I've always been. I want you to know that I know. I know what I lost. What I threw away, and I know I can never make it right." Dylan tried to sit up, grimacing in pain. Instinctively, Victoria stood to help him, years of maternal care overriding her resentment. "Thank you," he whispered. "You were always too kind to me, even when I didn't deserve it." "Dylan, what do you want from me? Why did you call me here?" He looked at her with the same eyes she once loved, now full of remorse and pain. "Forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I know I have no right to ask. But I'm begging you. Vic, forgive me for leaving you, for abandoning our son, for being the weakest man when I should have been the strongest." Victoria sat again, processing. Forgiveness. The word that had been at the center of her whole journey. She had forgiven Eleanor, who chose to return and make things right. She had forgiven her own failures, her doubts, her weakest moments. Could she forgive the man who destroyed her? "I don't know if I can give you what you're asking," she said honestly. "You didn't just hurt me, Dylan. You hurt Thomas, a 4-year-old boy who couldn't understand why his father was gone, who asked for you for months until he stopped because it was too painful not to get an answer. I know. You stole our money, cheated on me, left me broke, forced me to sell our business for a fraction of its value while you funded a luxury life with another woman. I know." Tears streamed freely now. "And now, 3 years later, when you're dying and alone, you call me and ask for forgiveness, as if it were that simple, as if one word could erase everything. I'm not asking you to erase it. I'm asking you to release it, to not carry anger for me for the rest of your life." Dylan coughed again, his body shaking. "Vic, you built something beautiful from the ashes I left. Don't let me be the shadow over it. Forgive me, not for me, but for you, so you can be completely free." Victoria was silent for a long time. She thought about everything she'd learned these past 3 years, about strength, about community, about turning pain into purpose, and about forgiveness. How forgiveness didn't mean saying what someone did was right. It meant freeing yourself from the weight of anger. "Okay," she said finally. "Okay, I forgive you, Dylan. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Thomas deserves peace, and holding on to hate doesn't give us that." He sobbed, a broken sound, almost painful to hear. "But forgiveness doesn't mean relationship," Victoria continued firmly. "It doesn't mean I'll bring Thomas here. He's happy now, stable. Bringing you back into his life would only confuse and hurt him. I won't do that to him." "I understand. Could you show me a picture? I just want to see him." Victoria hesitated, then took out her phone. She opened recent photos. Thomas at the piano, focused, fingers flying across the keys. Thomas at the park, smiling brightly at the camera. Thomas with Caleb, both laughing at something. She turned the phone toward Dylan. "He's beautiful," Dylan whispered, studying each photo as if to memorize it. "And happy. You made him happy, Vic. You did what I couldn't. We made him happy. Me, Eleanor, my friends, his therapy community. It took a village. But yes, he's happy." "And you?" Dylan asked, glancing from Caleb's photo to her. "That man, are you happy with him?" "Yes. Very. Good. You deserve to be happy. You always did." They sat in silence for a moment. Not comfortable, but final. Closure. "Thank you for coming," Dylan said finally, exhaustion in his voice. "And thank you for forgiving me. I know it doesn't change anything, but it means more than you know." Victoria stood to leave. At the door, she turned one last time. "Dylan, yes, I hope you find peace. Wherever you're going, I hope you find peace. You too, Vic, but I think you already have." She left the room, the hospital, and returned to the parking lot where reality waited. She cried in the car, not for Dylan, but for everything that could have been if he had been stronger. For Thomas, who would never know his father. For Eleanor, who would lose her son. But along with the tears came something else, lightness. As if she'd been carrying a backpack full of stones for 3 years, and had finally set it down. Forgiving Dylan didn't change the past, but it freed the future. When she got home, Thomas was with Eleanor, both at the piano. Caleb was there too. Sarah must have called him. "How was it?" Caleb asked gently. "Hard. Sad. But necessary." Victoria looked at Thomas, absorbed in the music. He asked for forgiveness, and I gave it. "How do you feel?" "Free," she said honestly. "Finally free." Caleb pulled her into his arms, and she let herself collapse a little against him. Eleanor quietly led Thomas to another room, giving them privacy. "He's going to die soon," Victoria said into Caleb's shoulder. "Weeks, maybe days. Do you want Thomas to know? To have a chance to say goodbye?" "No." Dylan made the choice not to be a father. Thomas doesn't need to bear the weight of meeting and losing a father he never had. He has you now. He has Eleanor. He has a family that chooses to stay. "You're sure?" Victoria pulled back, meeting his eyes. "Absolutely. Thomas doesn't need Dylan. He doesn't need that pain. He needs stability, love, presence, things Dylan never gave." That night, after putting Thomas to bed, Victoria went out to the backyard. Charleston was quiet, only the sound of crickets and the scent of jasmine in the air. Caleb found her there. "Penny for your thoughts," he said. "I was thinking about how strange life is. 3 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything. My husband, my business, my future. I was broken. And now," she gestured around, "I have more than I ever dreamed of. A mission that matters. A family I chose, and that chose me. And you. And me." Caleb agreed, taking her hand. "Caleb, I need to tell you something. Something I've been thinking about for months." "Okay. I love you. Not the way I loved Dylan. That was young, impulsive, built on fantasies. I love you in a deeper way. A real way. You've seen me at my worst and still choose to stay. You've loved Thomas through his hardest days. That's everything." Caleb smiled, that smile she loved. "I love you too. You and Thomas, you're my family now. If Amanda were here, she'd be cheering for you. For everything you've built, for who you are. You think she'd approve? Of us? I'm absolutely sure. Amanda always said love isn't limited. Loving someone new doesn't diminish the love for those we've lost. It just expands our hearts." He paused. "She'd adore you, Vic. And Thomas." Victoria rested her head on his shoulder, gazing at the stars over Charleston. Somewhere in that city, Dylan lay in a hospital bed, dying alone with his regrets. It was sad, but it wasn't her job to save him from that loneliness. He'd made his choices. Now he lived or died with them. And her, she had made different choices. Choices to stay, to fight, to turn pain into purpose. "Let's get married," Caleb said suddenly. Victoria lifted her head, surprised. "What? Marry me? Not now. I know Dylan still, it's complicated. But when you're ready, when the time feels right, I want to be your husband, Vic. I want to be the father Thomas deserves. I want to build a real life together, not just be together." Tears burned her eyes, but they were good tears. "Yes, yes, yes, I'll marry you. When the time comes, when Dylan's gone and things have settled, when we can start this chapter completely free from the past." Caleb spun her around, kissing her beneath the South Carolina stars. And for the first time since everything had fallen apart 3 years ago, Victoria felt completely, utterly happy. The past had power, but the future held promise, and she was ready to embrace it. Dylan Torres was dying, or at least that's what everyone believed in June 2018. Victoria had visited the hospital 3 times in the weeks following their first meeting. Not out of love for Dylan, but out of basic humanity. He was alone, wasting away in that hospital room, and despite everything, she couldn't simply ignore the suffering of another human being. Eleanor went daily, holding her son's hand, crying for all the wrong choices he'd made, for all the lost time. "He's getting worse fast," the nurse told Victoria on one of her visits. "The jaundice is severe. The pain is almost uncontrollable even with morphine. The doctors give him maybe a week, tops." Dylan was unconscious on that visit, his body frail and yellow against the white hospital sheets. Victoria stayed for 5 minutes, said a silent prayer for peace for him, and left. That was the last time she saw him. 2 days later, on a rainy Thursday, Eleanor's phone rang at 6 in the morning. "Mrs. Torres? This is MUSC Hospital. I'm sorry to inform you that your son, Dylan Torres, passed away during the night. Around 3 in the morning. It was peaceful." Eleanor broke down. She called Victoria, sobbing, unable to form coherent words. Victoria went immediately to Eleanor's house. She found the older woman on the living room floor, holding an old photo of Dylan as a child, crying the way only mothers who lose children cry. "He's gone," Eleanor managed. "My boy is gone." Victoria held her close, letting her cry, offering the only comfort possible in the impossible loss of burying a child. "I'll take care of the arrangements," Victoria said softly. "You don't have to do this alone." That afternoon, Victoria went to the hospital to handle the paperwork and preparations. She was accompanied by Caleb, who insisted on being at her side. "I need to sign the death certificate and arrange transport of the body," she explained to the receptionist. The woman behind the counter typed on the computer, frowning. "Dylan Torres? Yes, he passed away this morning." More typing. The frown deepened. "One moment, please." She disappeared through a door, returning minutes later with the senior nurse Victoria recognized from her visitation days. "Mrs. Santos." The nurse looked confused. "There's a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Dylan Torres checked out of the hospital last night, against medical advice. He signed the voluntary discharge papers at 9:47 p.m. Victoria blinked, processing. "What? But you called to say he had passed away." "No, ma'am. No one here cared." Victoria stood in that hallway for what seemed like an eternity. Caleb was beside her, processing the same impossible words. Dylan wasn't dead. Dylan had run away. Again, the nurse continued to explain irregularities in the records, but Victoria wasn't listening anymore. There was a ringing in her ears, a cold anger settling where before there had been only weariness. "Let's go," Caleb said finally, taking her hand. "There's nothing else here." They walked out of the hospital in silence. The June sun shone cruelly over Charleston, indifferent to the fact that Victoria's world had just been turned upside down for the 3rd time. In the car, she finally spoke. He made us believe he was dying. He made me sit in that room. He made me forgive him. It made me... Her voice broke. It made me feel compassion for a man who doesn't even deserve my hatred. Vic, no. She wiped away her tears angrily. I won't cry for him. Never again. Dylan Torres made the ultimate choice. He chose to be a ghost. So let him be a ghost. For me, for Thomas, for everyone. He's dead. Officially dead. Caleb drove in silence, respecting her fury. When they got home, Thomas was at the piano, playing a soft melody. Eleanor was in the kitchen preparing dinner, unaware. Victoria stood in the doorway, taking in the scene. Her family. Her real family. The people who stayed. Who chose to stay. And made a decision. We won't tell, she said quietly to Caleb. What? About Dylan not dying. About him running away. We won't tell anyone. Victoria looked at him with a determination Caleb knew well. He wants to be a ghost? Then he will be. For us, he died in that hospital. The story ends there. What if he comes back? He won't. Men like Dylan don't come back. They run and keep running until there's nowhere left to run. Caleb cupped her face in his hands. What if you're wrong? What if he shows up years from now? Victoria looked into the eyes of the man who had chosen her and Thomas when he had no obligation. The man who stayed when Dylan ran. The man who proved that true love isn't blood, it's choice. So, she said firmly, I will do what I've always done. I will protect my son. I will protect my family. And I will show Dylan Torres one last time that he has no power over us. This was just the first part of this story, which still has much to tell. Life is about choices, and Victoria would have to make some big ones in the coming years. Part 2 of the story is full of ups and downs that will make you wonder if you could act like Victoria. Click on the next video and learn everything that happened that changed this family's destiny.